Hey guys, the Explorer 4 here, Horrorboy465, aka Nate Murphy. Welcome back to some more reviews, and today, finally wrapping up the Phantasm series, with a movie that has gotten a lot of mixed opinions about it, since its release. And what's actually pretty cool about this review is that now that I'm reviewing the last Phantasm, movie, I was glad that I was able to have this in the review because my Phantasm 2 t-shirt, I kind of just want to show you guys a little bit. But right there, Phantasm 2. My Phantasm t-shirt just came in the mail. I know I wanted to get at least one Phantasm t-shirt. I wanted to get, honestly, I love Phantasm 2 to death, but I was wanting a t-shirt where maybe it had the first movie's poster on it. Or maybe I could get one of those collaboration t-shirts where it's like all the movies and different scenes from every movie. I don't know if they have that of a Phantasm t-shirt, but that'd be pretty cool. But I love Phantasm 2's poster, so it was pretty cool getting this. So yeah, I get able to have a Phantasm 2 t-shirt while I'm reviewing this. I was really hoping I was able to get this t-shirt in by the time I did this review, and luckily it worked out well. But today, guys, we are getting to the last movie in the series, the one to close the Phantasm series, and that is Phantasm 5, Ravager. Now, this is a movie, like I said, that has a lot of mixed opinions on right now. Of course, picks up right after Oblivion, which I can really respect because making a sequel right after Oblivion is really hard, especially at that time gap. But they managed to do it pretty well. But Phantasm Ravager, I think, is the lowest rated Phantasm movie. It gets a 5.1 on IMDb. Don Coscarelli wrote the movie, but he did not direct the movie. It was actually directed by David Hartman. And you have A. Michael Baldwin coming back. You have Reggie Bannister coming back. You also have Dawn Cody playing Dawn, a.k.a. Jane, new character in the series. You also get Kathleen Lester coming back, which is the lady in Lavender from the first movie. She came back in this movie. Bill Thornberry came back, as well as Angus Scrimm, which, unfortunately, I think this was his last movie role. Which, at least he went out with Phantasm. Phantasm was his swan song. But, you know, it's just a shame, you know, Angus Scrimm was a really great actor. And, you know, rest in peace to Angus Scrimm. He's definitely a legend in horror. And I thought that in this movie, he brung, like, a really good performance. I will say this movie does have a lot of problems, just being honest with you guys. But I can say this is definitely Angus Scrimm's, like, most intense performance in this movie. And if you look at it, Angus Scrimm really isn't in the movie a lot, but when he is there, his dialogue, his presence on screen, you really feel the intensity from Angus Scrimm in this movie. And I thought that Angus Scrimm delivered a fantastic performance as a tall man. He was just great in this movie. And you know, rest in peace to Angus Scrimm. He's definitely a legend. And I know that Phantasm 5, I think it's the lowest budget from the entire series. The movie's about 85 minutes. It took a while for it to get made as well. I think it started production in like 2013, maybe 2014. And it was scheduled to release in 2015 or whatever, and it got postponed. Or maybe, I think it was being made in like 2013 or 12. And it was supposed to get released in 2014, but they had to push it back to 2016, and then it finally got released in 2016. And I remember when I first seen the trailer for this movie, it was back in 2014, when this trailer dropped, and I was ecstatic for it, because at the time, I was really looking forward to a Phantasm movie, especially a newer one. And even though at that time I didn't watch 3, yeah, I think I might have seen 2 by that time. I don't remember. I know in 2013 I didn't see 2, but I think in 2014 I might have gotten that. Because for a while there I had a singular DVD of Part 2 and Part 4. So maybe I did see Phantasm 2, but I remember loving the first movie, and I remember seeing the second movie and really enjoying it. So I was really looking forward to a new Phantasm movie. And I remember wondering, in like a year after the trailer dropped, like why the movie never came out. And it was because it had to get postponed because they had to continue production on the movie. a little bit past the original release date. It's not really telling me the budget for the movie. I'm trying to look for that. But I do know this had the lowest budget. And I know that budget is a big reason why we had to wait so long for a new Phantasm movie, because they had to get funding. Because I think after Phantasm 3, Universal pretty much dropped the franchise, and then pretty much the series became direct-to-video. And I don't know if this company, Go USA, I don't know how long they've owned the series, but pretty much they're the reason why we got a Phantasm box set, because 3, 4, 5, and I believe Universal made a deal with them, so that's why they got Phantasm 2 in there, which is really surprising. You know, we're actually really lucky to get a Phantasm box set, because Universal for the longest time wouldn't work with the series, with a box set. It's the same reason that Child's Play never got a full box set for the longest time. It was because MGM owned the first movie, and then Universal owned the second movie, I believe the third movie, and then I think Dimension owned 4, and then, was it Rogue that owned Seed of Chucky? But luckily they all came together and they made a deal to make a box set for that. Which is why I kind of have hope for a Chainsaw Massacre box set, but at the same time, there's so many companies involved with that series. Personally, I think we'll never get a full box set. We might get a box set from New Line, which I think they have, where it's the remake and the prequel. But there's just so many companies that own different movies from that series. I think it'd be I think it'd be too hard to make a box set, because the first movie I think was owned by Dark Sky, but I don't know if they own it anymore. I think maybe I don't know. I can't remember. But all I do know is that most of the sequels are owned by different companies, and I know the prequel and the remake are owned by different companies, and I think 3D and Leatherface are owned by different companies. So really, it's going to be hard for them to make a box set for Chainsaw Massacre. But they made one for Phantasm, they made one for Child's Play, so I guess anything's possible, because those were two series that most likely was not going to get a box set for the longest time, and they finally did. So maybe Chainsaw Massacre will get a box set. But yeah, Phantasm 5, to get back to Phantasm 5 real quick, it is unfortunately my least favorite. If I can compare it to other movies, I loved 2 and 3 more. I'll even say I like Part 4 more. And I think it's because with this movie, it could have been a great Phantasm movie. It really could have. If they would have kept in one direction, I think that they would have made a really great Phantasm movie. There's a freaking fly in here flying around my head, and it's annoying. I want to go like that and like smack it, but I can't, man. But yeah, this gosh dang fly is really annoying. It keeps on flying around my head. But heck, it might even be picking up in video. Dang annoying fly. But I think that if they would have just remained on the storyline they were beginning with, the storyline of Reggie after Part 4, continuing right after Part 4, and you can even throw in the whole idea that maybe Reggie's in the hospital. I don't have a problem with that. It's mainly the third act of the movie, which I'll get into in a second. But yes, this will contain spoilers. So this is a newer movie. Most of the older movies, I didn't really have to put a spoiler alert in there because they were older movies. But this was a newer movie, 2016-ish, kind of older, but, you know, still kind of new. So, spoiler alert right here. But Phantasm Ravager is a movie that, when you look at it, it's really cheaply made. The budget is really low for this movie. The special effects are really bad. And that's why I don't get, because I get it. Maybe CGI maybe was a little bit more faster process, but Phantasm 4 had some pretty good effects. And I'd rather have those effects than these effects, personally, because the green screen and the CGI in this movie, which is rampant, it's all over the place, is bad. It's really, really bad. I think what saves this movie is I got engaged into the storyline somewhat. Angus Grimm is amazing. A. Michael Baldwin and Reggie Bannister are great. It's good seeing Bill Thornberry coming back. The Lady in Lavender coming back is a really good surprise in the movie. It does have a little bit of practical effects in there, which I don't mind. A little bit of fun stuff, which I don't mind. But I do think that, and also it does bring the series to a closure. Granted, it does it in a Phantasm way, which most people I think would probably not like that, but I loved it. I thought it was like, that's Phantasm. That's how Phantasm has always been, where one thing's happening and you're kind of guessing, is this what's really going on, or is this what's really going on? So I love how it ended like that. It didn't end on a cliffhanger necessarily, but it ended the series, I thought, on a good end, on the final chapter type ending. And this really is the last movie now that Angus Scrimm has passed away. I don't think they're going to make any more Phantasm movies. At least they shouldn't. They should not try to replace Angus Scrimm at all. If they try to replace Angus Scrimm, I will be furious, because Angus Scrimm is a tall man. He will forever be the tall man. Forever. He will always be the tall man. He's a legend. But I think that the problem to this movie is that, like I said, the storyline doesn't really know where it's going. And I've watched plenty of Phantasm movies, and yeah, there's a little bit of stuff in there, like especially in 4, where you're kind of wondering what's going on. But in this movie, it's kind of ridiculous. You're just wondering what's going on all the time. The storyline goes in a direction, and then it does a freaking sharp right turn to another storyline, and then another storyline, and then it's like they're changing their mind as they go along with the movie. And when you do that, the audience is lost. When you're changing a storyline in the middle of a film, the audience is just going to be out of it, because we're trying to figure out what's going on, and you have the storyline going all over the place. So storyline, I liked some bits of it, but man, it was all over the place in this movie. The special effects are really bad. There's barely any practical effects in this movie. Most of it is CGI spheres and CGI surroundings and green screen, and it looks really awful. It looks like some Asylum special effects, and that's just terrible. But, and then the people are going to say, well, it's because of the budget. Phantasm 1 didn't have a big budget. And that dimension scene where Mike falls back into the red dimension looked great. I think it hasn't aged at all. I think it looks amazing. And even in part 2 they did it, and it still didn't look that good compared to the first one, the red dimension area. I liked how it looked in part 2, but, part 1 was definitely the best look for that red dimension area. So if people are going to say that's the budget, I don't really get that, because the first movie didn't have a big budget, but yet you had this practical spheres, practical effects. It doesn't really cost that much to get practical effects. I think they were just trying to do CGI to get the movie done faster. Personally, that's how I feel. But I would prefer practical effects. Practical effects would have been A, cheaper, and B, yeah, they would have taken more time to do, but it would look better, If you can get it done faster, the product will look bad. If you want it to get done with a little bit more time put into it, then the practical effects are going to look pretty good. It's going to make the movie look great. So I don't know why they chose CGI. I think it was just to make the movie come out faster, to get it released faster. But personally, I think that they should have went the practical route, me personally. The music, I don't really remember too much from this movie. Maybe it was okay. I can't really remember the music that much. The characters are pretty good. I think that Reggie's a really good, it's a really good return for Reggie and Mike and Bill Thornberry. They all do great in the acting department. Angus Scrimm is amazing in this movie. I like some of the ideas that they have in this movie. Like, it pretty much picks up after part 4. It's Reggie walking through the desert, pretty much giving a really cool recap of the first couple of movies. And then he finds out that his car was taken. You have that pretty good scene where he's in the car, because his car ends up driving up to him, and it's the guy who stole his car. So he gets in the car, and he's like, man, this car looks really familiar. It looks like my car that was stolen. He's like, I think I left a gun on the dashboard. And the guy checks the dashboard. It's like, oh, yeah, that's right. I didn't put it in the dashboard. He puts it, like, right here in the armrest area. And he grabs it and tells him to get out of his car. I really like that scene. And I love the idea of this scene. It just, the CGI ruined it, kind of. It took the intensity out of it, where it's two spheres One of them goes and hits the guy who stole Reggie's car in the head, drills a hole in his head. Could have been a good idea, but the CGI was awful. The other sphere goes after Reggie. You have a good car chase where the spheres are chasing Reggie in the car. I really liked that scene. Thought it was done well, except for the CGI, but it was shot very well. I like the scene how Reggie puts one of the spheres in the glove box and then it starts drilling through. So he just takes it and just shoots it a bunch of times for it to pretty much blow up. And then they had that really cool scene where the sphere, there's like two of them, so one of them's already destroyed, the other one's flying towards Reggie. He gets out of his car and just shoots it. I think that's a really good scene. And he's driving on, and then this is where the storyline goes off the tracks. Because then he wakes up in a hospital, A. Michael Baldwin is there, treating Reggie like he's crazy. He's like, oh yeah, what are you talking about? The tall man and these dwarfs? That's a pretty crazy story. What are you talking about? So I'm like, so are you telling me the first 4 movies didn't happen? Or did they happen? And then they do this thing where maybe Reggie and the other dimension are kind of blending. Where maybe this false dimension is starting to blend with the actual dimension. Because in the actual, I guess, the actual dimension that Reggie's in, he's going after the tall man. He meets this girl who, of course, she's not really a servant of the tall man, but she does get killed by the tall man. Dawn stays at her house. A pretty funny scene where he's trying to hit up on her and, you know, once again denying Reggie. Reggie gets rejected once again. And then he starts making a song for her. It's a pretty funny scene, no lie. And then the next day, he wakes up, goes upstairs, and there's a sphere in her head, drilling in her head. She's dead. I'm like, wow, Reggie does not have good luck with girls in these movies. But Reggie runs out of the house, and one of the spheres flies through and hits a guy in the head. And then Reggie ends up getting out of there. And he's walking through the woods, and I really love this shot where he's walking, and he sees like a giant sphere. Granted, the special effects are horrible, but I love that idea of him seeing a giant sphere in the sky. And then he sees the teleporting, I guess, the dimensional fork, I guess is what it's called. Teleports him to this area where he talks to the tall man. It's a pretty good scene of Angus Scrimm delivering some great dialogue. And this is what I mean. In this scene, he's really irritated at Reggie because Reggie won't leave him alone. He's like, where's Mike at? He's like, you won't get Mike. And he's really mad at Reggie. But I'm like, you had a chance in part 4 to kill Reggie and you let him go. So I didn't really understand the tall man was so angry in this movie when in the 4th movie he could have killed Reggie. So he talks to the tall man. The tall man tells him to stay out of his way. Reggie wakes up in this mortuary area, meets the lady in lavender, kills her. Pretty good cameo for the lady in lavender, who honestly still looks pretty hot. I'll say that right now. Yeah, she's older, but she honestly still looks pretty hot. Just saying that. But so he shoots her, and then the movie does this weird thing where he walks into a cave and he sees a tall man there, and the tall man's like, you're just my bad dream. And then you get to the 3rd act of the movie where it's like a post-apocalyptic area where Reggie wakes up and he had these things over his head that was basically mind controlling him. And these people come in, and this girl who looks like Dawn, but she's not really Dawn, she's a different character named Jane. And then Mike is there, and Mike is a leader of this sort of post-apocalyptic world. Well, of this like crew of people there. And then Mike goes that, you know, pretty much things have changed. And he opens the door, and it's really bad effects where it zooms to the city, and there's spheres everywhere. There's fire and brimstone and the post-apocalyptic area. Stays there for a little bit. They run through the hall, and a couple people get killed. The tall man shows up. They shoot a bazooka at him. The end of the movie is pretty much they're cutting back and forth between the hospital and another, I guess, an alternate dimension. And then in this other dimension, they're fighting the tall man. And it just takes you out of the film when it does that. Because they go to this dimension, the red dimension, which looks really bad in this movie. And they battle the tall man. This little midget guy goes over, blows himself up to blow up the tall man. But that's not how you kill him in any of these movies. Because even in this movie, he says that there's thousands of himself. Thousands of copies. So I'm like, that's not how you kill the tall man. You gotta do something. Have it to where they blow up blow up a sphere, the giant sphere in the sky that could have been the ending of the movie. Oh yeah, we gotta blow it up because maybe that's his life source, or blow up something, you know, because that's not how you kill a tall man. That's really not. He's came back like 4 times because of that. And then the movie cuts to the end, to back to the hospital where Reggie's think he's going crazy, and Mike starts believing him, and then the storyline goes out of this world. It's just a crazy storyline, because then Mike is saying that he remembers what's going on, and then they cross over into the other dimension, and Bill Thornberry's there, and they drive off, and Bill Thornberry, and Mike are driving in the car, and then you pretty much, and that's the ending of that dimension. And then when it goes back to the other dimension, Reggie dies in the hospital. Spoiler alert. I already gave a spoiler alert, but Reggie dies. Mike and Bill Thornberry are there by his side. And then in the other dimension, Bill Thornberry, Reggie, and Mike are driving off after they defeated the tall man. So it's kind of a really weird ending. But it is definitely Phantasm, so I can say that I don't hate the ending because, you know, it ended up like a Phantasm movie, and I can really respect that. And it's a movie that, yeah, it's my least favorite. I can't do a rant on it because I can respect the fact they tried to do the best they could with what they had. Really, if you would have done practical effects, that would have helped out a lot, and if you would have just chose one storyline, not several, I would have been fine with that as well. Angus Scrimm is amazing in the movie. I think it serves as a pretty good final chapter in the series. It definitely ends the series. And it's just a really good entry. Not really good entry, but it's a decent entry in the series. It's my least favorite one, but it's definitely an okay movie. But yeah, the movie's okay. I think it's decent. It's a decent watch. They should have fixed the special effects in the movie and maybe made the story a little bit more clear. But that's pretty much my review of Phantasm Ravager. It's a pretty decent sequel. But it does get a lot of criticism, and you'll either love it or you hate it. But for me, I think it's a pretty decent sequel. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching my reviews on the Phantasm series. It's been a really fun time to do. And, or it's been really fun to do. Fun time to do. Been a really fun thing to do. The series is a really good series. It's really fun covering this series. And thanks for watching. The Explorer of Horror, out.